Okay, that's all looking good. This will be a bit that only you watching the VOD will probably see, as no one will have found out the stream's live yet. So we should probably go tell them all. Let's see if it's just actually showing up correctly. I think that's working fine. Yes, that's looking good. Okay. Not that anyone really looks at this from that. Give that a couple minutes. Welcome, welcome. A couple of you already. That was quick. Yeah, it's been a minute since I last did one of these. As in, I think it might have been the Fear and Hunger one. Spoilers, June. That's only one of the reasons. One of the other reasons is that I got into a bunch of fistfights with solicitors because they're absolutely useless. And when you're dealing with legal problems, it takes a while to focus on more public matters. Anyway, already got 5 of you, may as well get underway. But yes, as June has so rightly said, one of the main issues with why this took so long was hand drawing frames. As for this intro section, ooh. Okay, hopefully my computer doesn't shit the bed while trying to load all this, because it does tend to make the RAM a little unhappy, as well as eating up a lot of my CPU. So the sooner we can get through the first one, we can close that down and on to the second. But starting off was not too bad. We just have a couple of layered things. One of them was a pain in the ass, and it's not that one. I think it's this one. As in order to get things showing correctly, I had to cut out all of the terrain, which meant a lot of cutting points. But that's fairly simple. Just got one moving over the other, with then some slight colour changes just to give the overall effect, and then some stock BBC footage for the lighting in the background. So far, so simple. Then we start getting onto these bits. It's quite a few frames here. I think it's, and as you can tell from the numbers, done in reverse as well. So yeah, for this, let's see, what was that? 1 second segment, we have 62 frames. I This was the first of many mistakes. I don't know if any of you have ever tried animating at 60 frames per second, but if you have, don't. It's a really bad idea that wastes all your time. Then we get onto some of the slightly easier animations. So this was mainly just 3 frames looping. I like to do just 3 frame loops as it gives it a nice jittery effect. And then I could reuse those frames just bent a bit. So these are the same 3 frames, just moving around the arm a bit. In fact, let me make this a bit bigger so you can see. The arm is the same 3 frames, just I've cut them on different layers so I can then move them around. And I manually redrew the trigger finger moving. So far, not too bad. Then we have this projectile. It took me several attempts to make a convincing spinny trail. Turns out, just use a sine wave. So this is partially traced off a legitimate sine wave that I just got off Google. But that makes it nice and easy. This is in fact taken from one of the shots in the intro trailer. Do I have it over here? I probably do. Yes. It is. That is what I used to be the basis for that bit of animation. But I also flipped it around so it would look a little bit different and not be too obvious. And then I had to shoot the same guard quite a few times and keep reloading the level in order to get him in different stages of falling over. But after that, that's fairly easy. Then this shot, which I think I actually had to cut short and was a bunch longer. It had him going from a bit further down. This shot is, if I still have the file, which I think I do. Yep, should be this one. Image assets, screenshots. No, sketch animation, refs. Scene 2, scene 3, scene 4. Yeah. This is actually just the flip from David Martinez from Ghostrunner, from Cyberpunk Edge Runners, that I then put Jack's face onto in various states of rotation, so that I could then copy over from that to get the frames it was going over. I don't know why I drew Jack so caked up. That was purely accidental. Then just fairly simple cut across. The face turning is just from the scene where Jack drops down. Hello, PM. And then we have nice flash across, which this is the first shot that I'm not very happy with. I shouldn't have just made it direct lines. It looks too harsh. It would have looked better if I'd done a bit like this first one, where it comes up as more of a tear that I hand drew. This was like several weeks of drawing frames already, and we are at 13 seconds. Then this shot, the one going through the hallway, that I rendered in Blender. So if I solo out this and bring these back up, I rendered these in Blender. So it was a bunch of empty squares that had been cut out with then a bunch of light objects placed over it, so that I could then follow that, do a camera move through that, and then trace the movements of the animation over on top of it, although the speed is a little bit different in that case. But overall, creates a pretty good effect. Then this shot is just directly rotoscoped, both off Jack and off Mara, which took so long, because Mara's tentacles are a pain in the ass to draw, turns out. and there's like a lot of them. Then on to the jack looking to the side, which is the inverse of a shot used earlier. This, which then used my hand, some random human's hand, to model the hand flicking, which then allowed for me to get the correct positions and roughly the joints for then Jack's hand, which overall came out fairly smooth. I was quite happy with that one. Similarly with this one, got to experiment a bit with actual smear lines rather than drawing the whole of Jack's hands and the sword. I only ever drew it mostly just as part lines, so that when it's in motion, it gets a better sense of the motion in it moving faster, which I think worked out quite well. Then onto the kill switch, which uses a grid, just a checkered grid, as a displacement map onto the lower layers to then move it around to simulate the glitch effect, which came off fairly well. Yeah, you can see as this was the last bit that I was animating, I started getting a little bit lazier with actually drawing the hands because it was going to be glitched anyway, so it didn't need to be so accurate. People weren't going to pause to see it. And then we fade out. Then we fade back in. Which, unmute that track. As you can see, then was a TV placed over, and the TV itself was a different render, which if I go to my video assets, I can probably find. Or not. Well, it was somewhere. But it used a piece of software that someone very kindly wrote for me that slowly prints out a text image, a text file into the console, which is done by using an ASCII converter, just an online one that converts images into ASCII, and then that makes it into files, which they will be somewhere else. They're on the spinning rust, I think. You can kind of make them out from that. Probably not very well. Maybe one of the others. Yeah, so for example, one of the startup ones, this is just generated text, which then the slow console program prints out line by line into the system. So it works quite well. And that's most of the things that was done for the intro. The rest of that's there, which means we can now close this Vegas project and get into this one. Oh boy. So this is the total file for the main project, not counting the music, which I did partially later. I tend to do a full render of the main projects and then kind of add the music later, because oh boy does Vegas start getting very slow when you have this much stuff in it. So if we start at the beginning again, as you can see, this makes the Vegas editor unhappy. This is the previous part that's all just been rendered out, just into one go, nice and simple. What we then get onto is the actual start of the main video, which for the most part starts nice and easy, just some image edits of Branson and Musk fused into one thing. Then we have the planet impact scene from... Actually, here's a question for you. Can you tell me what this comes from? It's one of my favourite pieces of media, one I recommend you should watch if you haven't. But I think the chat's fairly delayed. I think we're on about 20-second delay, so see if any of you can tell me what that animation's from. Then we get onto the bit that the editor really doesn't like, which is these 4 different blurred things then moving in. Blurs in real time make the editor unhappy, but nothing too complex there. So this opening scene of people in vaults is from the highly acclaimed, and by that I mean completely forgotten, game called Rage, made by Bethesda in the 2000s. Very technical marvel of a game, solid gunplay, very, very boring story and world. In fact, I used a few more bits from its opening a little later on. Then get onto the final sections of the intro, which is a fairly simple, it's just a series of different screens with then different layers placed behind in order to show at the right side. However, all of Valk's lip syncing in here is done through 3 different sprites and synced up manually, because there's kind of no good way to do that unless you have something that supports a beat reactor, which even then I'm not sure if it would work correctly. Either way, I don't. This little bit of elevator music works as a joke, but it's actually something that came out of a restriction of I needed this scene with the audio from it. But as you can see, there's only one audio track here. The audio is the music is baked in. So I had to have that music being used, which meant I had to transition out of the music I was previously using here, which the elevator music works well for. And then I can just transition out of that. Then we actually get to start the video, really. So this is actually a shot from Ghostrunner 2. It's the first time you're in the open world. It shows out and lets you go around. Which is also the newspaper. I think is the only hard date we get of when Ghostrunner takes place, as this is roughly just as the apocalypse is about to happen. So this is like a year or 2 out, or something close to that. And then we know that the actual events of Ghostrunner itself take place some 50, 70 years after that. So somewhere in the early 2200s is when Ghostrunner is actually set. Then we have more footage from the opening cinematic of Wales. Wales? Wales. Rage. With then the obligatory Hitchhiker's Guide joke. And in fact, the asset I made to be the Heart of Gold in a Hitchhiker's video, which I later cancelled and never finished. That's the only project I've ever scrapped after getting a decent way into. I think I showed it on one of the other streams. I showed it at the end of that. Then we get into more stuff that I'm actually extracting from the second game, which is Kira's explanation of why it was aliens that did it. Although the footage is from her talking from a different section, because she doesn't actually talk. She tells you to a radio. So I had to just, in fact, if I solo out this track, all you can see is her little face in the side as a JPEG. So wanted something a bit more visual interest, and it matched. It matched up okay. It was good enough But that's also why you can hear a difference in her audio quality from this bit where she's talking over the radio.
Party. Dance party.
To here, which is actually taken from the correct audio.
No way.
Dance party.
No way.
Then more footage from Rage. And then we finally get into the actual game. These were all fairly simple, just object moves. In fact, I was so lazy on this one, you can actually see bits of the Adam from the background layer just being moved there. And in fact, as you have watched the video, will know this is from the very end of the game. But if you don't know it, it's not really a spoiler, because until you find out that the architect's dead, well, this just looks like it. And then get on to the Ghostrunners, which is just the frame loop from before, just rendered out a few times so that I could put explosions over it. And then nothing really until we get to Jack in the Dumpster, which is just a fairly simple asset. It's just Jack rotated upside down and placed behind a rubbish heap. Yo, hi Navian. Welcome to the chat. This is, in fact, footage from Project Hell, then also overlaid with Mara. I don't know if anyone picked up on that, but you can see Mara reflected in that. It was meant to be Mara watching this go down. And then some fairly simpler bits until we get to the Skype call, which is just genuinely a recording of a default Skype call, green screened out, then rebuilt, just with Adam's face instead. And then the next major edits don't come until, well, we got Zoe's shack here, which again is just a fairly simple screens cut out with then different layers placed inside of them. This was a surprisingly difficult shot to do, as it was quite hard to green screen out Jack's hand, and I really didn't want to have to cut out each frame manually. That was just too much. So what I went for is instead getting it on a sort of green screen-ish, or rather the closest thing I could get to a green screen, which was from this level where it's up against something mostly green. Then chroma keyed that, but the chroma keyed, as you can see, makes it a bit pale. So I chroma keyed it a few times and stacked it together to produce the transparency until we end up with the full layer where it actually looks all right. Also, now realizing I forgot to change the text here, so you can see that what I've actually just done here is just change the use inspect element to change the Mega Mech video and cover that up. Usually I try and change the description text as well in order to make it look a bit different and be appropriate. Probably should have edited out the promote button as well. But a lot of work into these. Yeah, probably too much, if I'm honest. It wouldn't have taken so long if I'd just gone a bit, Vegas. An error occurred during the operation. Okay. That's fine. Okay. Then we get onto these. So these little screens are a little render I did. So I'd take a thing. In fact, I think I could probably find the projects themselves. I think there are other assets. Yeah, just go to Zoe. Actually, no, Zoe was probably a bad one. The Zoe one's dodgy. I'm glad you feel it's worth the effort. I am very proud of this one, even if it didn't do too well. Yeah, fine. Yeah, so this is just a couple different layers with then footage with then the TV simulator effect placed on top of that, which gives the nice aperture grill and the flashing effect. But nice and easy. That just then gets rendered out and used. Also realised I've been leaving this up here, so you've had no idea what I was talking about. So as what I was talking about earlier with the different layers is... no, not that one. The transparent hand I had to build up with a few of them to create the overall effect. Anything else I recently missed that would have been... I probably should have shown? Probably not. But yeah, that's how these things got made. Then we move on to the tutorial that I recreated. So this starts off fairly simple. This is actually fairly easy to animate, as it's just what I refer to as backwards animating. I drew the full thing and then slowly cut bits off of it to make the previous frames. So as you can see, the final frame, the very first frame here is frame 39, because that's what I ended up with. What I started with was that, and then chopped bits off until we get to here. Hey, welcome to chat, Loco. Then the moving road is 5 frames that just repeat, but they perfectly repeat, so it's nice and easy. We then have the good dings, and yeah, I couldn't be bothered to do the full animation of deconstructing on this, so I just instead used a moving mask that came in from the sides to slowly reveal more of it, but gives a fairly similar effect. Then we get on to the first enemy. So we have the selection dings, and then we move on to this. So this UI is something that I entirely built myself. So it uses a sort of... where's the video assets? Where's the base assets? Yeah. So it uses this, which is just the base layer for it, which is then I cropped in editor, added the solo out to here, added these boxes around it, and made it partially transparent so that it can then exist as its own right. And then the wheel, where's the wheel? At wheel assets. There it is, spin UI. Is another pre-render I made, which just uses 3. It was from like a UI package, and then I adapted all 3 into be separate layers so that I could then set them rotating in a way that they would then perfectly loop, just to be added as a little thing for visual interest in the corner, really. What inspired me to make it? Necessity, I suppose. I needed a UI that would suit the sort of Ghostrunner theme. I'd done animation earlier in the video, like right back at the start, that was all sort of just blue and sketchy, so I built off of that. And I wanted to like some code flowing in the background. I liked the slanted looks, but that left a gap here, so I wanted to put something there, so then I added the wheel and then kind of built it up from there. Thought they were a little too boxy, so added the extra bits. Just worked out. And then we have the sketch bits that go inside. Hey, Had, nice to have you here. This is also the only time I was planning on doing 3-frame loops for all of the enemies, but then I realised that was going to take way too long. So this is the only enemy where you can see him sort of fluctuate in the screen. All the rest will be static. Good for like a Shadowrun character. Yeah, that's the sort of thing I was going for. Very, very sort of classic cyberpunk sort of thing. Really is a lot of tracks. In the basics of Vegas, this is much more than I could do. It's just practice, to be honest. I've practiced in time. A lot of time. Because there's several things like how to do glitch effects that I just looked up online and find. So for the rest of the UI, we have the UI bars are actually fixed objects. They're just an image, and then I use masks and just slide the masks around to create how far the bars go up. No mermaids 0 out of 10 game. Yeah, sorry, Had. I did have someone give me a heart attack by saying that both of these said defense. I got very concerned for there, but it's just that the fonts look a bit similar. The O looks a lot like the D. So, got very scared when I first uploaded and someone said that the entire thing was wrong. Then we have the VR sections, which are entirely just one frame of the moving road, and then assets from the game that I manually cut out and then inverted the colours on. And then the projectile is taken from an earlier rendered part of the video. And then my beloved explosion.mp4. I use it in basically every one of my videos, and I will continue to use it in every single one of my videos. I don't know, maybe I watched too much Aqua Team Hunger Force, but everything exploding with the same rote explosion effect that doesn't even get to finish, it always just cuts off. I find immensely funny. Oh. YouTube's not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming, such as videos will explain buffering. Okay. Well, hopefully it's looking fine. I can't change the bitrate while it's going. It's streaming at 13,000 bit rates anyway. Drop frames 0.01%. I don't know what YouTube's complaining about. I will ignore that. Then we have the tier list, which again is UI effectively made with the same rules that I made the other ones, just to sort of keep it all looking the same and keeping a similar thing. I was originally going to have the sketches here rather than just the sort of PNGs of the characters, but it looked terrible. They utterly just blended into the background and they didn't stand out properly. So I went to the full ones instead. This was a shot that I was very proud of, and was a fairly simple one. This is just a standard pan and crop to move the guard across, then a white flash, and then just a couple different assets. So we have like, okay, yeah, that's we'll need to leave the red on. So we have like the top of the guard, the bottom of the guard, and then underneath some intestines and a couple blood splatters. And then a new jack, and that made a rather nice sort of slow-mo Kurosawa-esque chop in half. The explosion is funny. See, you're absolutely right there, Key. It definitely is. This again was not too bad a thing. I made the warning UI myself. That's just from a couple pieces, and then I had the red part, the circle part rotate. I couldn't get it to quite rotate properly, If you look at it here, you can see that it's slightly rotating off center, but it doesn't matter too much as you only ever see it very, very, very small here, and it's also moving about a bunch. And that was just done via picture-in-picture tracks. That's the wrong one. We want that one. So this was just moved about on picture-in-picture rails in 3D Source Alpha, which just lets you move it as if it was in 3D space. Which that's these you can see both together. I just did at key points to make it seem like it was consistent. And then we have our beloved explosion gif. Big ultra kill part times. Yeah, I suppose it is. That they do like their red and black contrast. Yeah, then we get on to the first set of text boxes. This came from a fact that the game does have in-game subtitles, but I didn't want to use them at all points because I wanted to use a lot of the audio out of timeline for when it should be. Thus, I built some UI that looked kind of the same as the other UI we made, but for the sake of text boxes, which is made up of 3 layers, which is the text box itself, the text, and the title. The text is then just using, again, sliding masks as it goes across to have the text display in time with the speaking, which is not a perfect effect because it means I'd much rather have it like it was typed, because sometimes otherwise you end up with these half letters. But that was a sacrifice for time. Is the enemy tier list inspired by Pyro's Cruelty Squad video? Yeah, it is. I was hoping I wouldn't get called out for that one, but no, yeah, I am completely stealing it from Pyro there. Ooh, I messed that up. I got that wrong height, showing the tops of the letters there. There is a way that you can get it to show as each letter coming in, but the restriction of that is that it causes you to have to keyframe every single letter coming in, which was just too much work. Then we have a bit more chatting here. Yeah, this was a bit that I proposed doing for all the dialogue and then decided against and used the to go for these where it shows just the character floating there in a screen. Originally what I was going to do was have all the characters displaying, sort of coming in and out of shadow as they speak, kind of like a visual novel. But I wasn't entirely happy, so the only place where it stayed was here, because that was the first one I did, and I was alright with it there. But it got rejected for these. These little things, actually, though, were the last thing that I put in. Because I was going to go back and do this for all of them, and then I decided, now we'll do this. Also because I was running out of time. The video was uploaded on the morning before a 4-hour drive down to see my family for Christmas. So it was cutting it tight. I had to stay up quite a while. Creators adopting live automated mid-roll ads see on average an uplift of 20%. Go away, YouTube. I'm not adding mid-roll ads to this. A goddamn live stream. Anywho, this was all fairly easy until we had nothing really much to talk about. I hope I'm resting between videos. Yes, I have not been working on any video in well over a week. playing through Cyberpunk 2077 at the moment, and I'd spent a week down with family for Christmas. So yeah, no, I definitely did rest. Yeah, the next thing was a fairly simple of just sliding some blocks around to show how bad Ghostrunner's puzzles are. Like, it's literally just slide across, slide up, slide back, slide down. That easy. Puzzle for 2-year-olds. Then we have more just text boxes. Oh, I did use it more than once. Huh, neat. Yeah, this is more just dialogue boxes, as we've already done. Jack in the trash heap, copied from earlier. And then some fairly simple just tracking shots here. So all we really have moving is the lines just to make sure that the points stay at the same point, which is just done by the slight rotation of the pan and crop. All in all, fairly easy one to do. This took a while, because for something unlikely to happen, you have to get lucky. So I lost track of how many recordings I had of this wheel spinning and failing to land on the go free slot, because it was like 1 in 50 or something. The chance it was low, so it took a few attempts for it to actually finally land on go free. But that was at least something that was easy to do. I was pretty much doing it while just watching something else or eating lunch, or I forget, but it was at least not strenuous to do. Then we have Zoe's foreshadowing about Atma chips, which I forgot to put in on the first pass, so had to use Vegas's option of inserting time to add time in to fit this in, which causes its own problems because it doesn't move everything across uniformly. It moves all the clips across, but doesn't move picture and picture positions across correctly. But luckily, so yeah, like these, the picture in picture positions, don't get moved properly. But luckily, it didn't matter too much. Wait, these aren't doing anything. These are all... What were you for? Oh well, probably wasn't important. Then we just have the timing of how long it takes for focus abilities to come back, which I had to render out a couple times, because Vegas will only let you speed a clip up by up to 400%. That's the quickest you can make a clip. So for this, where I had to do that a few times, we have a render of it at times 4, then a render of it at times 16, then a render of it at 64, then a render of it at 256 times. And then that I sped up by 4 times, so over 1,000 times speed. Similarly, the music I did speed up a few times, but not by as much. So the music isn't actually at 256 times here, or even at 16 times here. It's at, well, it's at 2 times for where it's times 4, 4 times for where it's times 16, and then 4 times, so there'll be 16 times where it's 64. And then for 256, that's not the music at all. That's extra tone I found on the internet. A interesting genre, for sure. But after that, fairly simple. Just have a clip from Armored Core 6 for how long it took. Incidentally, the answer to the question of which the clip was from in the earlier is from Gurren Lagann. Then we have just some fairly more simple until we get on to the next guy. So this was when I decided, nah, I'm not going to make 3 of them for each of them. I'm only going to make 1. But I get to reuse the same UI, so it was actually, these sections were fairly efficient. The only long bit was the drawing of the sketch, and then in the tier list, the cutting out of the guy. Oh. 1 second, that's me telling, that's my alarm telling me to take my crazy pills.
Patient class B.
Gotta take my meds. You need the drink anyway. But yeah, and we have the second guy. Nothing much to speak about for a little bit, as we're more just using straight clips. It's more just picture-in-picture stuff of doing the same thing, just split image with then another image at the top. Nothing huge to talk about there. This one took a while because it required more lip syncing. So when the mouth is open, shut, or in between, each one of those I had to sync up to the audio, which took a while. But it wasn't the worst. It's also why I didn't continue to do many bits of showing the sort of Valk AI in things, because every time I showed that, I have to manually animate a bunch of stuff. So normally we skip that and just go on. So for the exploding horse, was the classification my voice? Yes, it was TM. So we go back. That's actually something to talk about. Where is it? Yeah. So yeah,
Any classification class B.
It is my voice. It was deliberately me talking in a falsetto. So if and then put through a bunch of effects. So if I remove all of these and play it. Enemy classification, class B. Wow, I forgot to do the falsetto there, but it was put through a reverb at pitch shift and a stereo delay, which then created the overall effect of a more robotic voice.
Enemy classification class B.
It worked better in the bits where I remembered to actually do the falsetto. And you could tell when that I'd got a bit better at it when I had to re-record some of them because I'd got the letter wrong, and come back to it later, which we'll get to once we get to Tom. Because Tom sounds a little different in the classification because I'd got much better at doing it by that point. So that's where we were. We were at the exploding skeletons. So this is, in fact, just 3 very long images that the pan and crop camera just moves across. When the explosion happens, I swap out to a different image that instead has the skeletons, or the skeleton horse. Nothing really to talk about with this. That's just moving a thing back and forth. And then we get on to the next enemy analysis. Just came to pop and say how I love your handcraft videos. It feels even they take 2 years to make. Hopefully none of them will take that long to make. This has been my longest ever video to make, because the Megabec one, I think, was about 5 months, and this one was closer to 6 or 7. So appreciate the support. Share it with your friends. Tell them to watch it. But yeah, good old explosion.mp4. And then this is where I first started sort of experimenting with the sort of the montages. Ooh. wow, yeah, the editor is not enjoying that. But I started trying to get together the better clips that I had and sort of chain them together to make a bit of visual interest in between and break up just the long stretches of dialogue. And then we have the Unchi Spinada Tusenbargen, which I think was like Spinning Death Wheel Factory is what that translated to. I don't remember exactly. I think it was like Spinning Death Wheel Factory. If you want to look it up on Google, translate yourself, you can find out what that actually means. And hey, they're doing pretty well. It's been 37 minutes since the last accident. Then we get on to the shield guys. Fun fact, the shield, the introduction to the shield guys is where the largest drop in viewership on this video was. Apparently just like this section here talking about how shields work, that's what got people to stop watching. Not that much, it was like 10%, but it's just weird that there was a drop for like that seemingly innocuous bit. I reckon it's probably YouTube's analytics just being weird. Then we have the shield, which we have more anime references here. This is Roaius from Fate, or arguably a Greek reference if you want to think about it that way for the real Roaius. But the real Roaius wasn't a giant energy shield with 7 layers. Yeah. This was actually a more difficult one to cut out because the shield is transparent. So how do you get that to show properly without getting rid of all the background? So what I did was I cut out all the background, made the background way more transparent than the rest of the image, and then added the front image back to it to give the semi-transparent look. Sword fans hate shield users, clearly. Yeah, I mean, I hate shield enemies. I think they're lazy and time-wasting enemies in most video games. They're not too bad in here, but only because they're fairly trivial to deal with. Like, any time a video game introduces, like, oh, it's an enemy with a shield, it's like, oh, great. Like, until you get... If you don't have the Foxblade, these guys are a bit of a pain in the ass, although they're not so bad, because at least you can break their shields. And what was the other clip I used? I think it was Payday, yeah. Payday, the shields can be very annoying unless you have the right weapons, which is why you always need to bring like an explosive weapon or a armor-piercing weapon. This is also one of the few times in the video I didn't use my own footage because I didn't want to reinstall Payday. just to get footage of it. Because that game runs terribly and is hugely bloated at this point. Now we have some more dialogue boxes. Nothing huge to talk about there. Just talking about how Tempest works. And then a few more enemies to be introduced. We have the good old mech. Honestly, I think I did the colours a little bit too dark on that one. It kind of blends in a bit. I want something a bit brighter next, but would work better. And then for this that I quite liked, it fires a giant set of Coca-Cola cans, because that's what I always thought it looked like in the when you see it in game. It's just these big red cylinders that come flying towards you. It's killing you with brand awareness, and then also playing the prop kill sound, because you have to. And now we get on to Tom and talking about how bad the fights are in Ghostrunner. Because, man, the boss fights are not great. They're just really not. They're alright. I got a lot better at doing Tom by the end of this section, because I had to replay it like 3 or 4 times to get different shots. and different angles of like the same thing. But it did work out fine in the end. And then this is what I meant by the audio's a bit different.
Enemy classification, Class D.
Had a bit more practice on that one, so compared to the others, even if I take off the pitch, shift, and reverb.
Enemy classification, Class D.
Managed to do a bit of a better voice for that one, which led to it working out to a much better
Enemy
sound.
classification, Class D.
But I wasn't going to go back and redo them all, so there's one that sounds a bit different. Until it gets used a bit later. I think it's in Hell section. And we have more manual lip syncs, and then the timestamp. And then we're into the spoilers section. This is where we reveal that Adam is dead. Yeah, so this title, similar to the little bits, are just done with a TV simulator, and then changing the line sync on it, which gives it that sort of shake effect. And then also they use a bit of 3D Space Alpha in order to, if I were to result into default, it would just be kind of flat rather than what it is, where it's a bit more slanted. Yeah, so this shot of the AI architect is actually from the second game as well. But I wanted something that gave a bit more contrast, and he just doesn't look as impressive in the first one as he does in the second one. Well, it's not him in the second one. Well, spoilers for the second game. I mean, you should know he's dead at the end of the first game. And we have the architect passed out, which is just a bunch of balls I cropped out and then placed around him on a... I mean, it's the same image as him being dead back, like, here. So I just cropped that out and then put him there. Add a bit of drop shadow. And then the smart toasters. That was originally meant to be a joke. But then in making the asset for it, turns out they're very real. Stream description says stream. Okay, well I set one on edit title and description. It's got a description. Oh yeah, I put stream in there for when it goes into being a VOD and shows in people's what's it called, subscription feeds, so that it looks like a stream and it doesn't look like a video that I've uploaded, because I like there to be separation between them. So yeah, that was intentional. Maybe I should move it to the end. Yeah, I should probably move that to the end. Yeah, you're right. That does look better. Oh, yeah, I spelt it wrong. Thank you. Either way, thank you for the heads up. I can't spell to save my life. This is known. Also, yeah, the smart toaster that's made out of a router, the Monkey Lord's laser from Supreme Commander, and the Cybran logo, and then just a random satellite dish I found on Google. And then, yeah, those are actual smart toasters. Hence the there's no gold behind our money joke. Which, the cut-off at the end of the air on the audio of gold behind our money, and further, was deliberate. I wanted it to just cut. Hence why there's also a little bit of a black pause there. This was surprisingly a pain. I thought this would be easier than it was, but this required both moving masks and moving positions in order to get it to pop out convincingly and then go back in. It's not perfect. I probably could have done with optimizing it a little bit more, especially with the crop on the bottom. Like there, it's cutting off at the line there when it should be cutting off down there. But overall, I think it came out alright. From there, we don't have too many things that we've not brought up for a while. We have the drones, which are drawn in nice bright colours this time. We have the flying dude. We have the same... I forgot to put in the sound effects for reflection. Whoops. There was meant to be a sound effect here for... sound effect made when you reflect a projectile. It's correctly in there in some other points, but not quite here. Also, another thing that I was doing was I was cheating putting all the people in place by just... what I'd do is just solo out the people and the new thing that's been put in. And then get Vegas to output a screenshot of that then import to use for the next one. Which did lead to some issues, hence why I then had to replace the UI element over the top of it. This little bit took a surprising amount of effort to zoom in on the sniper, because there's something called photo mode in Ghostrunner, which lets you sort of change the focus, but it's still tied quite closely to Jack, so you can only move so far. So what I had to do was I kept having to go into photo mode, record a bit of it moving, then go into photo mode again, record a bit of it moving somewhere else, and I actually did this 4 or 5 times. Although in the end, turned out I didn't need to, as just the start and the end work fine as an effect. Cutting out all the unnecessary middle bits that I spent ages doing. But yeah, so this is a fairly simple edit. This is just a picture-in-picture rotation, and then a bunch of projectiles going off at angles. We've got the timers again. Vegas has a nice thing called freeze velocity, which allows you to essentially freeze frame a video. So I can use the same time counting up and then just have it stop where I want it to. And then started experimenting a little more with actual like display shots here. So getting each shot to pause of the 3 snipers that are in the game, and show them all be chopped at once, each in a third of the screen. Although I think I got it a little bit off, because the one on the left is definitely more than a third. Then we get on to Hell's first appearance, which uses just Hell very, very pixelated. So we have pixelation set to like 8.89. And then a pixelation of... we have 2 copies of this base video of it just looking there. And then we pan the camera, the virtual camera, across that. But for the top layer, it's the same thing again, but instead it's cut down to a very small bit, and then a pixelation's applied to that to give the sort of moving disturbance look. Again, reusing this same thing that I already cut out to save time. Then I don't think there's anything really else until we actually get to Hell herself. As I used the same UI, but applied a colour balance to it that shifted it all to red, and then crossfade between the two. So we go from blue to like the red. Although the outside doesn't go quite red, it still stays quite blue due to the colour of blue it was. But the inside looks red. So that's good enough. And then the bars, I just quite simply have the masks move up and down a bunch to make it look like the UI is going haywire because it can't understand hell. And then it's not long before we get onto Hell's actual fight herself. We have the stuff on the train, but there's not really much to talk about on the train. That's mostly just clips of the game. And many, many clips of me failing to cycle skip the head trawler part. But once that's done, it's on to actual Hell's boss fight. And yeah, we have that. I think that Unit 13 is correct for Hell. As in the DLC, that's what's written on her door, and the section that she's in is all numbered as 13. But I'm not entirely sure. I think that's correct, though. Either way, it works. She's also the only one that I maxed out all the bars for. Because she's a Ghostrunner. She's very dangerous. Then we have this scene that's from the outro and this scene that's from the intro to Hell. Just one of them cut in half to line them up. I also made the UI here red as well. Also, I probably should have explained this better, but the tier list ranking for the enemies aren't how effective the enemies are. It's entirely based on how much I enjoyed fighting them. How good I think they are as an enemy in a video game to contribute to things. Because, like, wardens probably kill me more than jumpers ever do. Certainly more than drones ever do. But I enjoy fighting drones and gunners more than wardens. Oh, also, I ended up extracting a bunch of the audio from the base game, which meant that I was able to actually see what a lot of the things were called. Like that the purple twats are actually called shifters. Which was interesting to know. The gunners are called, I think, Uzis. But I'll just stick to calling them whatever I feel like. And then we have the actual boss fight with Hell herself, which I had to cut between two bits. Because this is actually from a different time playing the boss fight to this. But because I transitioned it during the flash, I think I got away with it not being that noticeable. Basic enemy is the standard, and most others just first guy but gimmick. Yeah, kind of was. Which works well for some of them. Yeah, so in order to make this less obvious that I was switching between, the other thing I did was that I zoomed it in each time you impact. Only a bit, so it's fairly subtle. You don't really notice that it's getting more and more zoomed in. And then zoomed out on each hit the second time. The second clip. Because also, if otherwise, it went directly from this, which is with the UI disabled, to this, where the UI suddenly shows again, and just looked awkward. So it worked well as a good little effect. I got away with a cut. Yeah, I think I got away with a few quarters cut in this. And we get onto the clip from Sharp, which is what makes a good soldier. I was considering pasting like Jack and Hell or Mara's face over them, but I couldn't decide who should be who. So I just left it as it was. So you get to see Sean Bean's ugly mug. And then we have trivializing snipers with Surge, which is a little facetious of me to say, because all the snipers in the game turn up before you have the Surge ability. You get the Surge after them. But hey, if you're ever on replay, it makes it very easy. Which is great, because otherwise snipers is just kind of not that fun to deal with. I don't know why I did so much detail on the turret drawing here. It got a little out of hand. I think this was at the point where I just started watching the Venture Brothers while I was animating and making stuff, so I was probably somewhat distracted by all that and just didn't really notice how much I drew. Because most of the time I can like watch videos while editing, but it's only sometimes that when I'm doing more audio editing that I have to, or like music, or like listen for what's going on in the clip, that I have to like pause that. This was a fairly easy one, which is just made from a top and a bottom. What's the bottom? There it is. As you can see on the bottom, it actually does have a bit of the top piece on it, and then these 3 legs, there was only like 1 and 2 like halves. So each of these 3 legs are made from copied pieces of the others that were covered up by the first. Then we get some more montage time, which I think I was getting a lot better at these times. I think the later ones look far smoother and make more sense compared to the first. And then we have Zoe's goodbye. She says goodbye and goes off to die. Except she doesn't. Honestly, I kind of think they should have killed her. Had you go take what you've learnt from her and go defeat the tower for her sake. But I like her in the second game, but honestly, I think it would have been made more sense from a story perspective to have her die there. Make it a bit of a tragedy. You kill Mara, you kill the architect kills you, and Zoe died as well. Everyone's dead. Now we get to my most embarrassing thing about this video, which is this. A blank area where there's nothing. Because while you can go insert time, there's no way to insert negative time or remove time. There's a close gap function, but it really doesn't work very well and tends to only move stuff on like one line. There's this ripple as well, but it just doesn't work. So the easiest way to do it is leave a gap. Then when I go to do my second render, I just cut out the gap there. I forgot to do this. As I said, I was a bit pressed for time to get this video out before Christmas, before going to see family. So I didn't have time to watch it all once I'd uploaded it to YouTube. I kind of sped watched it to check it. And I missed that I'd left a big gap here. I could try and cut it out in YouTube's editor, but then that's also going to make the timestamps for when the spoilers end off. So I might just leave it. It's only like 3 seconds. Oh, 3 seconds though. I should make the spoilers later. That would be fine. I'm probably going to cut that out in the YouTube editor. You never saw this. This black space does not exist. Listen to Big Brother. Yeah, this is just a clip from Mass Effect 2, from the Lazarus project. But it serves my purpose, and then just some stock footage I found. And then we have the creeps. The creeps I put sideways because I thought it'd be neat to have them looking like they're crawling on a wall, and it's also partially because they wouldn't fit in it horizontally without them being tiny, because they're very wide. So that's why they're vertical. Not much to say about the creeps. I think I said everything I needed to in the video, which is that they're awful. They're a badly designed enemy. that's not really that fun to interact with. I mean, they're not the purple guys, but yeah, they're not great. Their only saving grace is that they usually come in packs, which means you can use Tempest multi-kill refund to just clear through the packs. Also, talking of Mass Effect, this is a clip that I just covered over from my Mass Effect video of the Quarians making the Geth, which also I think is one of my other videos that really didn't do very well. That might be because it has 2/3 of the N-word in it, so maybe Google didn't like that. Anyway, onwards towards Mara. Got some of the montages I'm more proud of, especially as I'd actually started playing with the music as well to make sure that we have sort of things sync up, so it's right as the hit goes that then the music comes in. I won't play too much of that because there's a copyright troll claiming all of the Ghostrunner soundtracks at the moment, so would rather not have to deal with that on this live stream as well as on the video. Although those have been ruled in my favour now, so those have been released, but that was a pain. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't know what they were called originally, hence why they're called Purple Twat in my script. And I thought it would be funny to keep that in, even after I did find out that they're actually called Shifters. It's probably the art piece I'm least happy with this one. I don't know, it just didn't come out amazing. And then we're getting right to the end. We have the Shaking Chihuahua, that then... This is all just picture-in-picture movements, and then my favourite explosion.mp4. Creators adopting live mid-roll ads. I already told you I'm not doing that, YouTube. Go away. Ignore the, like, several seconds it takes for me to tab back in, because the editor starts deloading everything, because it doesn't like how much I have loaded at the moment. I've got the RAM for it, it just doesn't like it. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear the fan going up higher. Oh, this clip. This goddamn clip. I think it's this one, actually. It's one of the ones here. I had to redo a couple times because I kept missing the jump, and thus the audio cut off and restarted, so the clip wouldn't look like one smooth clip. But because of the way the game worked, there's no way to redo that without restarting the entire level, and this is right at the end of it, so I have to play the level like 3 times just to get one clip. That was annoying. This is something I mentioned earlier about actually doing a sort of typing effect. The way to do... doesn't look like it's fully worked. But the way to do that is to have the... Okay, so these are slightly desynced. Did these desync like that? Just move it there. What is wrong with you? But effectively, you just have one frame, and then the next frame you move it, and then you keep it steady until the next frame, or it moves. And then you can get the sort of effect of it typing out rather than just wiping in. And we have the delete and the IM jack. The typing sounds are artisan typing sound effects by yours truly, smashing my keyboard. And then it's on to Mara's boss fight. With, honestly, one of my favourite jokes in the video, which is the filming my screen. So this is the screen I am looking at right now as I recount this video. The main one is a 4K monitor, which I run at 1440. Then what I normally do is have like my this thing, the video output window, up here at the top, so I can have a full screen of editing. Then have all my resources on the left, and like YouTube or something on the right. But yeah, that is the setup I use. So for this, I rendered out. In fact, I think I should have it somewhere. I think, is it? Yeah. Yeah, here it is. So for this, I had the video pause and just keep it. And only then does the... So I could make a video where I... So I could have it in a video where I swish away, then swish back, and then the final thing happens. But in the swish away, I actually cut to a different part, which is my workbench. You get the lovely shot of my wings and talons as I pour alcohol. Don't know if any of you tried that drink. I do recommend it. It's one I drink quite a lot because it's cutting alcohol with other alcohol, which makes it great for getting plastered. Especially on Christmas, because it's all apple and cinnamon. Very nice. And then we whip back, and Mara still hasn't done the attack yet. And then Mara gets placed right at the bottom of the tier list. And then we go on to Adam with another Mass Effect joke here. I have like 3 Mass Effect jokes in this video. Didn't expect that. Doing the Harbinger eyes, and then doing the Jamiroquai slide towards you. Just gonna get water. My throat is going. I'll be right back. Where were we? Now we go on to the final fight with Adam, which honestly, not too bad. The hardest part about this was this. I had not realized just how out of practice I was with Toho, so it took me like an hour to get to Oku on Lunatic. Look, it says it's on Lunatic. It's definitely not something else there that's been scribbled out. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Because we do have an effect to talk about here, which is this. So this uses 2 images. So one of them is the main image of all the people spread out. This image is like 12K, by the way. It's huge. Oh no, 7K, height 4K. So yes, this is about this is an 8K image. And then underneath that, we then have the web of spreading. Yeah, it does. 2 8K images stacked on top of each other does not make the editor feel good. So the way I did that was just have a circular mask that just spread out as appropriate to when the top was spreading out to create that nice web effect. This is another thing that doesn't make editors feel good. They hate GIFs. So this is actually a GIF, and oh boy, does it GIFs just bring the editor to its crawl. Also, that's definitely not the same attack that I had like here. That's that's that they're both on Lunatic, I swear. And that's the end of the spoiler sections. Which means we now get on to hardcore mode. I hadn't actually written about hardcore mode in my original script, so it was a later addition, but also not that much to talk about other than my conspiracy theory that hardcore mode was originally meant to be how the game was meant to be played. Then we get onto wave defense and kill run, which, as in the video, there's very little to talk about. It's just showing off the stuff. And then cosmetics. This was probably the only real edit here, which again is just a picture with holes cut into it, then placed upon a couple more. And then the artifacts. Yeah, the ice is actually from the Hell DLC rather than the base game, but that's by the by. It still works. And then the radio collar. This is one of the things I think I was most proud of, was this shot. I think it just the clang and the...
For recycling bondage equipment. Or
Oh, ooh, Vegas. Vegas, are you okay? Vegas, live, please. Yeah, this is what I was talking about how the editor is not that happy once projects start getting this long. Once I was about past the half an hour mark, really, it started having issues. Ooh, I don't know if it's recovering from this one. Ooh. Yeah, I think she might be dead. Well, I think this does mark the first time I've had Vegas crash on stream. Oh, that's dead. Back. Close. No, don't send anything to Microsoft. Right, you get to see the blistering load times. I will take this moment to mention that this entire project is on an SSD, not on a hard drive. The horrific load times you're seeing is because there is just that much of it. In fact, here's a fun game while it's loading. Take a guess on how big the total project is. All the video assets, all the images, renders, intermediates, reference images, all of that, audio. Give me your best guess on how much that adds up to. If you're watching this on the VOD, put your guess in the description. Description comments. I cannot speak today. If you're watching the VOD, put your guess in the comments. No cheating when I reveal what it is later. 255 gigabytes. That is a reasonable guess. Ooh, do we have life again? Yes, I think we do. Not responding. Lovely. Come on, Vegas, you can do it. Live, you piece of shit. Oh, come on. There we go. Ooh, ooh, there. Yes. Still going. Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. And there we go. We have control again. Where was I? Yeah, we did. Oh yeah, we were talking about that joke, which I won't be playing again because that just crashed the crashed Vegas. If over 200 gigabytes is a reasonable guess today, I'm scared to imagine what it might be. Okay, well I will reveal that the actual total isn't actually that high, but it's still pretty high. It's 155 gigabytes. 2,885 files in 28 folders. The way I sort it is I have the main file that has the actual project file, the final renders, the script, and the thumbnails. We then have the audio assets, that's all of the sound effects, not the music. The music I usually leave in its own file in my actual music folders. But all the sound effects and all the dialogue. We then have the image assets, which is all the images that contribute to it, all the stuff I've made, cropped out, etc. As well as the images that were fed in as test images for the ASCII generation. The block colors, I just use various screenshots that are outputted from Vegas. And then the sketch animations, which from the beginning, which is a massive amount of files in its own right. Because you have like all of the foot brace animations, various reference images, the second scene with the moving bullets and the arms, scene 3, which has all the reflection, then scene 4, which was all the swipes and the flips. And we get onto other ones, so we have all the Mara shadows. I attempted to use an interpolator to get more frames. Did not work. Had to do them all manually. And we have the kill switches, various attempts at interpolation, all that. And then the various tutorial parts. And then I also have other assets, which was the output from Blender of all of the frames of the light down the tunnel. Which there was a lot of. I didn't use all of them. In fact, it's the object is here. Yeah, so this is what the hallway was made out of. It was these shapes that I made out of basic assets in Blender. Then the camera flies down and turns and spins through there. And then there's a bunch of light objects. And then we also have all the video assets, which there's a lot of. You can also see that for some of the things, I take a lot of shots before I actually end up with the ones that I use. Good to have redundancy. But yeah, 115 in all. 155 in all, which, yeah. Which, considering I record at 1440p, 60 frames per second, I suppose isn't really that bad. Also, the final render of the actual video is 8 gig. Just for that one video. But let's get back to the video itself. Or rather, onto Hell's DLC. Which, honestly, there's not a huge amount to talk with Hell's, because there was a lot less edits that were needed for it. No, You. Go over here. The first real edit was just like the courtroom scene, which isn't too complicated an edit. That's just VTuber Studio. With then the courthouse stand cut out and placed on top. Then, like I said, it's just recording a VTuber Studio. Was most of what looked like a corruption vision from you or from the game? That's from the game. Most of like the corrupted stuff where it like jitters about is all base game. I did it a couple times to like transition between shots, but no, most of that's the game. And we have the courthouse, which I baked Jack and Hell into. I just got images, put them in, cut them, then because they weren't going to move, so they could all stay as one image. What a background! Oh, that's because my background is come on, Display Fusion. My background is it's a little small, but it's the full length image. It's this image, which is then all the way across my three bottom monitors. So we have like one part on the left. So this is the middle part, hence why all you are seeing is fluffy thighs when I drop that, and then talons on the right. It's having an issue with my top monitor at the moment, but I'll deal with that later. Yeah, the next real major edit in Hell's section is just the stealing of LeBron James's legs. Which is just by syncing up stuff to move around. So we have the camera just moving about in the pan and crop to make it look like the arm's moving, when really it's just the camera moving effectively. And then Shaq's legs are just similarly just moved in time. It's a similar effect to what I did for mounting the wings in the Mega Mech video, but a little bit simpler because I didn't put in like a welder this time. Yeah, another basketball. I don't know why there's multiple basketball jokes. I don't think I've played basketball since I was about 12, and even then that was only 4 PE. Wasn't out of choice. No, this is quite a high edit, but it's just layers stacked on top of each other, not really moving, other than the like Lotus background I found on Google, which is just slowly sliding up and down, and is then cut to only be this portion, so it only shows on half the screen. But other than that, it's fairly simple. Then we have Bakunin watching Mara's TV. For this, I just booted up his boss fight, flew the camera around behind, photo mode camera around behind him, and just then cut him out. So I could just have him sit there and watch it. And then we have, again, Hell in CV, which is a fairly simple edit. It's fairly the same as the others. So we just have one guy We fire the projectile, then just move hell slightly to have the explosion then go off. Then we have Musk getting shot. I don't know why I made the hand so green. It kind of makes it look like he's getting shot by Shrek. That's probably a better colour I could have chosen for that. Why did I... There must have been a reason. I'm sure there was a reason. I don't know what it was. It was like 2 weeks ago, but there was a reason. And then, oh, okay, I was quite happy with this edit of Mara driving in the car, hitting Ghostrunners with her car. I don't know why. I just thought that one came out quite funny. And the Ocean Spectres with the Mara shot from the beginning of the game. Beginning of the video. And not much really to say, I think, for the rest of the video. I think that's all of the difficult edits done. We've got a few more tier list bits and some minor movements, but honestly, that's kind of it, I think. I think we've got Mara flipping off. Yeah, we have Mara flipping off Hell, but that's not Hell flipping off Mara. But that's a fairly simple edit. That's just Mara cropped a bit. Oh boy, did Mara take forever to cut out, because look at all these tentacles. Oh. Let's go with the mask. Look at all these things. They're not smooth. They all have bumpy edges that are a massive pain, because I have to trim between each of them. I can't just like smoothly run a brush around the side of it. Yeah, that was a pain. And then we get to right towards the end of the video. All we have left is really just basic picture-in-picture and stuff. We have the games and just some additions, and then basically all done. And then the very final joke of Crowler at the end. But yeah, that was the video. Oh, has the stream dropped? Well, I suppose you can catch it on the VOD. If you are catching on the VOD and watched all the way to the end, then here's one little extra thing that I put in, which I think only one person has noticed. Oh, Vegas. Come on. You're almost done. You can almost rest, Vegas. Just a little bit more. We're all... I think the stream's dying, probably due to that, I guess.